Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here. And once again, it's Tuesday night, and we just finished another exciting episode of Dana White's Contenders series. Week 6 is in the books. 5 fights, and 4 of them were pretty quick, or 3 for sure were quick. The last one had a devastating knockout. And once again, joining me is the matchmaker for BTC Fight Promotions, Rob Beaver. Rob, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Jason. Thanks for having me on again. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. We got ourselves a very interesting night of fights. Only one that went to the decisions. Everything else was some pretty quick work. The first 3 fights, we had 4.5 minutes of cage time.
That had flashbacks of BTC 7.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think you'd bring it up, but I was like, yeah, if it was a regional show.
Yeah, that wound has scarred over, and I'm over that situation. We had 5 killer fights out of it. Not the evening that we wanted, but nonetheless, tonight was super exciting. We were chatting as always throughout the thing, and
Yeah.
I had missed the first 3 live real time because I was out with the family on a little stroll, and managed between fight 4 and 5 to get caught up on the first 3, given that there was just 4.5 minutes of cage time in those 3, and wow.
Yeah, that's one of the things where it really worked out, where you can just, as you said, you got through the fluff and you caught up right as the main event was underway.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
yeah, it was perfect for you. So, those are the nights that you kind of really look forward to. And that's what Dana clearly looks forward to. Just guys that go in there, get quick finishes, and we get ourselves a pretty comfortable night. I mean, I think last time we were just waiting for Dana to get the decisions around this point in time before we jumped on and did this thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the kind of night we had. And we started out with the middleweight bout with Alexikov Karizbav versus Henry Shigumoto. And this one was pretty quick, just 50 seconds. I thought Shigumoto really started out well, but once the fight hit the ground, his back was taken and was put in a rear naked choke. And that was the fight. And I was like, well, we're off to that kind of night. An easy decision to me for the first contract to be given out.
Well, that was, as the guy said in the broadcast, the second fastest submission in Contender Series history, which is something. And I just thought I was actually quite impressed at how, and I'm going to butcher the names, so I'm just going to refer to him as Russia in this one. But Russia fell down or had his legs swept out from under him and just like got up quick and then was like suffocating on top of his guy, and then next thing you know, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, this was Karizev's first fight in 2 years, but that opponent he beat in less time, and that was a former UFC fighter, Husamar Palhares. So you can tell this was a UFC level caliber guy. Maybe didn't even need to take the route of the Contender Series, but nonetheless proves why he's a UFC fighter now, as he won a contract tonight and does it in 8 seconds quicker than in the Palhares fight.
And it was a slam dunk decision. Dana didn't have not that he had a lot to say about many of the guys tonight. He was less animated giving them out this time around. But yeah, no brainer. Here's the contract. Let's see. These guys coming from Russia, if they can get it done the way that he wants it done, and that's inside the distance, they're coming with enough credibility, enough of a resume, and that sort of thing, and the big gyms and the guys that they're training with. You get the job done inside the 15 minutes, you're getting a contract.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Russian MMA scene right now is just crazy. So much talent all around in such a big country. And if you get an opportunity, you can just see the talent level that they have in Russia. Just whether it's going to be a guy with the stand-up or his sambo, the wrestling, what have you, that's exactly what happened. That's why we got a quick finish tonight. And Dana loved it. I mean, this fight set the tone for the night of fights as well, Rob.
I wonder if that plays into it, because I was thinking about that when they were interviewing the main event, and I wondered, like, does this guy feel any more pressure than he already had feelings going into it, knowing that there was 3 super fast finishes prior to, and then the 4th fight was really scrambly, high level, high action fight. How much does that weigh on him in the back while he's warming up? Like, I really got to get in and dust this guy if I want a chance, or if I think I'm going to get in.
I would think it definitely weighs in, because we know what Dana likes. And even when he was talking, he was like, the wrestling once again. Like, he went and wrestled in the 3rd round for the fight that we had that went the distance. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They look at it as coasting. So, I mean, everyone knows the pressure is this isn't the true element of the sport, I guess, where Dana would probably maybe look the other ways. If that was like a pay-per-view main event and you wrestled in the third round or fourth championship rounds, whereas this one, he knows it's kind of, he wants an entertaining, high, quick action, and that one didn't. But the opener did, and as you said, it set, as I said, this set the tone. And then we move on to our second fight of the night, which was in the bantamweight division. Draco Rodriguez versus Mana Martinez. And this one was starting out to be really good. Rodriguez said he really wanted to keep it on the feet, but once it hit the ground, he just locked up a triangle that he didn't even know he could do and choked out Martinez cold.
That was Draco's the guy that they were trying to grab from King of the Cage a couple years back at least. There's been two different opportunities that the King of the Cage got in and put the block on him, which we don't have to talk about that today. That's nonsense. But nonetheless, super even fight coming in as far as the books were concerned. And these guys got after it quick. And yeah, that triangle was in tight. And I don't know why the other dude didn't slam him down when he picked him up at that one point. Mind you, Bisping did say, like, it's going to go one of two ways. You're going to slam him down and it's going to be released, or you're going to snug it right up nice and tight and go to sleep faster. And he opted not to slam. And next thing you know, he's waking up with Tweety birds wrapping around his head.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an impressive one. He just came in really out of nowhere and did something he himself didn't even know that he could do. And I think that just shows the level of skill from Rodriguez.
At 24.
Yeah, exactly. And now
let's see, he's got 12 and 0 amateur and like 13 or 14 pro fights now.
He's now 7-1 as a pro and was 12-0 as an amateur, as you mentioned.
Right.
So like this guy's super skilled, and now he's got King of the Cage past him, gets his UFC contract, and this guy just can add to the depth. Like that bantamweight division of the UFC is just a who's who of tough guys.
Yeah, I saw some people online talking about maybe him and O'Malley. And I thought that might be a bit of a stretch for the youngster.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I don't know where you go for a Rodriguez right now. It's always interesting in the matchmaking and see how quick they get them in, because that was such a short fight. Like we've already seen Impa go on the Contender Series and get a win in the UFC within like a 2-week span. So they're trying to get those guys in there pretty quick. So don't know where it's going to be, but I mean, cards are filling up as well. But way
they're going to the island pretty soon. Yeah, into this month.
Yeah, which brings up the point. We talked about them offering two guys last week the November spots. Well, apparently they're taking a halt on the Contender Series for October while they head back to Abu Dhabi, and then the show will kick back up in November. Hence why they're saying we're bringing it back in November. It's not a new season. It's just a continuation.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what.
How many more weeks are they doing it then?
So I believe we're just going to finish up September, and then all of October while they're in Abu Dhabi, it's going to be on halt, and then November it'll pick up.
Typically they do 10 weeks, do they not, of the Contender Series?
Yeah, it's a 10-week. We're at week 6 right now, so there would be technically 4 more weeks. That's what I saw. That's what Nolan King of MMA Junkie reported, that they are they're kind of putting a stop and then starting up in November.
Oh, okay. So I kind of misunderstood. It was like a second season of it this season. So it'd be like another 10 weeks of it.
Yeah.
It's only a few weeks.
I think that's how most of us interpreted it. Like the way Dana presented it was like a new season, right? But it's not going to be that.
But that's funny too, because I was talking to Sean and Mick a couple of weeks ago, or several weeks ago now, and they had said at the time that they were pretty well booked up with what they were matching up. So it sounds like with Dana giving all these guys new opportunities in November, maybe they're going to do an extended, maybe not a full 10 weeks season or schedule, but maybe they could just do 5 or 6 more weeks on top of the 2 or 3 they're going to add.
Well, it'll be interesting as well too, because this airs on ESPN Plus in the States. College football is in a weird spot right now with only some conferences playing, and you're heading into the holidays, which is normally bowl season. There's going to be limited bowls. ESPN's going to want the content. So I can see them definitely having another season as well, or more fights and more guys to bring back and what have you, because the UFC is right now running whatever ESPN Plus does. And maybe they could put those on ESPN because they could be hurting for some content.
Aren't they on TSN too?
In Canada, they're on TSN as well.
Yeah, that was a good get for them this year. For
It's
these
kind of
guys
crazy
that
that it took it till this year, but I guess not enough Canadians were on it the past couple years, and this season is starch full of Canucks.
well, I think too though with Fight Pass, right? Like maybe a lot of people jumped off of Fight Pass to jump on to ESPN Plus, and Canada we can't get ESPN Plus, so we still have Fight Pass and go through that route.
I think in the
I pay for
state,
them both.
yeah, I mean, I think in the States they pretty much abandoned Fight Pass, other than like if you're a diehard and want to watch like an LFA
Hmm.
or CFFC, because they're really marketing ESPN Plus. But internationally, they're still pumping stuff out for Fight Pass, like for
Yeah,
those promotions and the early prelims and now the Contender series. So there's
it'd
still a
be
market for it.
it'd be nice to see some Canadian content on
I,
Fight Pass.
I agree, Rob. I mean, we need to get some Canadian stuff out there, but I mean, hopefully we can get that happening. It's 3 months left in this year. Hopefully, maybe by 2021, we can get some more Canadian content out there on Fight Pass.
Just may happen.
But moving on to what I thought was going to be the most competitive fight of the night, the third fight, which was another middleweight fight, Phil Hawes versus Kadzimurite Bestov. And Hawes is a guy that was there before. And Dana even criticized his performance before being on the Contender series, where he ended up
He's lucky
losing
he
to.
got a chance to come back.
Yeah, exactly. He lost a second round head kick to Julian Marquez, but picked up some wins, one in Bellator and two with the Brave FC. Gets the chance to come back, and boy, did he not disappoint at all. What a finish from Phil Hawes, a big overhand right, just a minute 18 seconds into the fight, and just literally punches his ticket to the UFC.
I had to turn the volume up. I could have sworn I heard the other dude or like Phil Hawes asking him for change. And that's why his hands were so low, because he was looking for a couple of quarters to give to Phil Hawes before he gets punched out. Like, was that the game plan, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know, but like you can really see that Hawes has so much power in his hands, and this is a guy that, it proves if you sometimes a loss is the best thing. Hawes lost in devastating fashion and then picked up, got himself some very impressive wins, all by finish, and then comes out with his best finish yet of those four in the four fights since his first run in 2017 of the Contender Series. And this is a guy that there's been a lot of hype around, and he lived up to it.
Well, he's got a massive frame. Like he's a huge guy, and I liked how he was using the like heavy leg kicks,
Mm-hmm.
and but for whatever reason, the guy, I guess to thwart the wrestling, but his hands were down at his chest, and Phil hit him with a nice leg kick, which really you could tell really stung him, and then he came over the top and just put his lights out cold, and the ref had to jump in quick time to save his life.
Yeah, that was nasty, and I thought that was maybe one of the better knockouts we've had this year, but was more an appetizer what the main course would be later on in the night. And yeah, Phil Hawes got himself a contract. Then we went to the lightweight
Well
fight.
earned, I think.
Yeah, very well earned. I think if anyone was going to get it for sure, like if they had to pick maybe one, it was going to come down to Krizev and Hawes. I thought, and Hawes, I think Dana would have probably picked just the sensational knockout over the submission, even though Krizev was UFC ready even before the Contender Series.
Devastating for sure.
But then moving on to the co-main, the lightweight bout, Sherrard Blackledge versus Cameron Church. And this was a real fun fight for the first two rounds, Rob, especially that first round where Blackledge came out, really was dictating the pace, but then Church kind of turned it on towards the end of the first round. And I thought it wasn't really close, but Blackledge, I thought, won the first with just the takedown and trying to work for an arm triangle on the bottom from the ground. And then the second round, I went with Church, and then both their guys, they just went on, their gas tanks went on E, and it was kind of a sluggish finish to this fight. And in the end, it hurts Blackledge potentially getting a contract, but was good for 2 out of the 3 rounds. But Blackledge doesn't get a contract, but gets invited back for November. I mean, what were your thoughts on this one, Rob?
Well, it was quite that's the first for me, the first fight of the night that I got to watch. So I was like, all right, this is great. If this is the pace that the boys are bringing tonight, and I know I had some hints from you that it was a quick
Yeah.
evening, but the pace that those guys were were bringing in both the first and the second round, it was no real surprise that, and I kind of agree too that it was a bit of a split going into the third round. But yeah, they were sucking wind into the third, and both guys 4-0. They had an opportunity to fight in front of the important folks, performed well, but just, a little bit more in the experience side of things might have helped them push through that final round and end up in a bit better of a position, and thus in the UFC today. But what's his name, Blackledge, was invited back in November and did not look impressed or happy about the fact that he was invited back. But if he's smart, like I talked about last week, the money is take the goddamn fight. And
I'm pretty sure people are telling him the same thing. He'll be back in November.
And the guy like William Knight last week lost and came back and with another opportunity to pick it the week before that. He'd been on twice prior. Phil Haas. You can go on this show, lose, and come back and learn from it, put on a great performance, and then punch your ticket. So losing on the show, provided that you don't come in overweight or do something stupid, you get another opportunity. So take it.
Well, that's the thing with this show is if you're a prospect they're interested in and you lose and you come back with some big wins, they're going to be interested with you. And I think that shows the difference in how good the different mentality that they have in MMA to boxing is. You lose a couple times. I don't know if I really want to see you, but you work your way back up in MMA. You're once again a hot prospect.
And again, 4-0.
Yeah.
Like if they take the same amount of fights and come back 8-0, 7-1.
Exactly.
Or, 8-1, whatever. That's impressive. That's something after too. That's a record they made.
And as you talked about too, Rob, like there's not enough regional shows going on right now, right? So like, and we don't know if there's going to be a second wave of the pandemic. You get an opportunity to come back, you damn well take, because you may not fight the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Like the guys in the States are a hell of a lot more fortunate right now to be able to compete in different spots than the guys up here in Canada for now. Who the heck knows what's going to, and I think the UFC going to Abu Dhabi through September into October is probably wise. If there is a second wave, it's likely coming around that time. So for them to be out of Dodge is probably a smart bet. And hopefully then it's gone by election day.
Yes, hopefully that is a fact as well. But all in all, this was competitive, a real competitive fight. I was worried we'd maybe get an early finish again and have the fastest night in Contender Series history, but both guys really brought it, and a contract wasn't awarded, but once again, an opportunity was. So really, for everyone, even though the contract was, there's still opportunity, positives to be looked out for Sherrod Blackledge. Then moving on to the main event, a light heavyweight matchup, Tavon Chukwi versus Al Matavo. And this was a real interesting fight. I mean, when you look at Chukwu, he was 3-0 as an amateur. Coming into this was 3-0 as a pro. I mean, this guy, he beat William Knight in CFFC. So we kind of talked about that last week with how impressive Knight's performance was. So that just shows how heavy hands Chukwu has. But, his opponent in Matavo, a Samoan guy, Samoans are always super tough, like nearly impossible to put away with punches. But he's moved from Samoa to Alaska. And, those Alaska fights, they always are very entertaining. And he looked to put on a show. And I thought Matavo fought a pretty good fight considering the kind of aura around Chukwi. But he came out, tried to push the pace, but man, Chukwi just got so much power in his hand. That's a scary guy at 205 pounds.
Frightening. And it reminded me, I kind of chuckled when I was watching it because it reminded me of like a cartoon where like the little tiny cartoon mouse is trying to fight the great big cat type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he was tagging him. And again, I'm going to butcher these names, so I'm not going to bring names up, but the smaller guy, and he was much smaller at 200 pounds, like walking weight, where the other dude was probably, what do you think, like 230, 225 at least. Cage time today, he was massive. But the first round I gave to the other dude. that ended up losing. But because he was fast, getting boom, 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 shot, shot, shot. Kicks, the leg kicks. I thought he was the game plan to wear him down was probably the right one. But with a guy like that, he's going to hit you a couple times.
Oh.
That's good night, Irene.
Well, yeah, like I thought, like like sometimes you get in there with an opponent and just the aura, what they build up. Like I said, 3-0 as an amateur, 3-0 as a pro, all wins coming by way of knockout. Like as a pro, 2 out of his 3 wins were first round KOs. You sometimes kind of buy into that and lose the fight before you get in there. And Matavo came out, tried to make it a fight, as you said. You gave him the first round for using the leg kicks and trying to get in there. But I gave the first round to Chukwi. But in that second round, Matavo's face was busted up, and just as they were coming back, just a huge connection with the head kick from Chukwi, and Matavo literally flew back like a fatality in Mortal Kombat, like flew 4 feet back, and his head.
I was expecting to see like his brainstem come out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like pull out his spinal column as well, but.
That was vicious. Then, and I had a very similar reaction to Dana's. Like he might give me nightmares tonight. This guy, Chukwi is no joke. Obviously a seasoned striker with the Muay Thai and the kickboxing background and the world championships and this and that. But yeah, like you said, 6 MMA fights doesn't seem to matter.
No, exactly. It was a very scary knockout too. Like normally you get those big like knockouts like that, but they get up a few minutes later. This was like a 5 to 6 minute delay of Matavo down on the canvas. They didn't shoot him at all. Was just camera solidly focused on Chukwi. Like Matavo's head smacked the back of the mat so hard, like bounced like a basket. Like it was really frightening there for a couple.
Yeah,
minutes.
I hate seeing that stuff. Like I'm okay with watching guys get knocked out, but it's when they fall back and their head bounces, like basically their lifeless body bounces off the canvas like that. I don't like to see stuff like that, and that's when the real damage happens is those types of impacts. So those are scary to see too. But what was equally scary was the absolute zero motion through the whole thing from Chukwi.
Yeah.
He thunders him in the face, knocks him out cold. He barely blinks, definitely doesn't crack a smile, straight face, stone cold. And as he's watching them try to pick the pieces up from his opponent, nothing, same type of look. Like that dude, he's frightening. But yeah, I was happy once they finally got things moving. I went and like put a couple things away or whatever here. So I didn't see the announcement and stuff like that. So it was just Chukwi, I suspect, as part of the announcement.
Oh yeah, for sure. They announced him, and then Chukwi was very classy, like stayed in there, made sure that Matavo was okay, and then finally once he moved, he was able to sit up. They had a bucket out there for Matavo. Like you could tell once he came conscious, he was puking his guts out inside the octagon. But
really?
Yeah, he had been puking his guts out. I think that's why they weren't shooting him, because there was a big bucket out there, kind of like when Gabe Gonzaga hit Chris Tucker with that low blow, and he just convulsed and puked everywhere after the low blow. But yeah, there was a bucket there. But Chukwi was classy, came over, said, good fight, and, sorry about that, what have you. But Chukwi, as we said, was an easy candidate, and another scary guy with so much power coming from Cameroon, like Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, well, they breed them big out there, obviously. They know how to fight. They're definitely – the conditioning's always the question mark.
Yeah.
With those big, ripped, muscly guys. And what I saw from his footwork was excellent energy conservation. Couple steps to the left, couple steps, no big movements, and just wait, pop, pop, and hits with intention. 205 needs a shot in the arm, and Chukwi might just kick him in the face.
Well, that's also a big thing too, right? Now John Jones vacates the belt in the UFC, and that division now really wide open. We have Blachowicz and Reyes fighting for the title, but this is a division now that could use a new star. And from what we saw from Chukwi, he definitely could be the light heavyweight version of Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, and you hate to, and you don't want to see what they did with Francis and push him a little too fast, right? When he looks like he may fit the part. but there's no need. He's young. He's like 25 or 26 years old, I believe. Is he that? Tell me he's that old. Not some like 40-year-old that's aging gracefully, but nonetheless, I feel like they've got lots of time with somebody like him, and down the road, not like his first UFC fight should be against Misha Cirkunov, but that's a name that rings a bell to me that could make for an interesting fight with that youngster.
Francis Ngannou is 34 years old, Rob.
No, but the Chukwi.
Yeah, Chukwi is a much younger.
Like 25 or something like that, right? 26?
Yeah, he's 25. He actually has a birthday. He'll be 26 next month, actually.
Okay, so they've got a little bit more time than they do with Francis, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Francis, nonetheless. And Cyril Gane.
Cyril Gane, yeah.
The guy that they had mentioned as far as being 3-0 and coming into the UFC and now being 6-0. So there's a progression there, and I feel like the Gane model is probably the right path for this Chukwi fellow as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of prospects in those heavier weight classes that are working their way up, and I know Gane's got a fight coming up, and I think a lot of people after this will be really looking forward to see Chukwi come out and fight. And then, as we said, 5 fights, 4 fighters get contracts. Do you have any problem with the contracts that were given out, Rob? This seemed like a pretty
No, I
easy
think it was a slam dunk, the slam dunk, and I didn't expect the guys in the 4th fight to get one. Oh, that's you. I didn't expect the guys in the 4th fight to get a contract. The 4 finishes are exactly what Dana White orders in these types of things, and this show just proved again why it's an important part of the development, because now we see 4 guys that we can look forward to seeing likely in a few weeks' time in their UFC debut.
Yeah, because they're, as I said before, they're really turning these fighters around, getting some guys signed, 4 fights coming up with how pretty much we're continuing the stretch from fights till December 12th as of now, because UFC is going strong until the rest of the year pretty much, and there still could be another card added.
I bet you they had 2 more before, like one before Christmas and one before New Year's, or for the big New Year's show. So
yeah, I would be fine with it too. I always like the like January 2nd or type of event, like right into the new year with the UFC, and I think that's the way the calendar works as well, where you could have the Christmas week off and then go into a new year of fights.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can just keep banging them out, and they like you said, like the hockey and the baseball, hockey and the basketball is coming to an end. College football sort of in limbo in what they're able to put out. Who knows what's going to happen with NFL? Like, it won't be long before UFC is once again ruling the television stations as far as the content that's going out there, which is amazing for them.
Oh, this has definitely been a year where the UFC and MMA as a whole has just taken leaps and bounds, because the numbers of that first pay-per-view coming back after everyone was on the hiatus and lockdown, people were craving sports. Like, they were buying that show more so because it was a sporting event, and people that may never buy a UFC pay-per-view again, they wanted to see sports at the highest level, and that pay-per-view delivered. And what we've seen from college football as well is some games have been canceled because of COVID. It's going to be a weird year. NFL's, I think, could be in the same boat, or we could have like a 300-year season for the NFL with just how they keep pushing games back, where the UFC does seem to have a formula that works right now, where a fighter may test positive, but they're rescheduled 2 to 3 weeks later, and we'll just trim the card number down, but the event will still go on.
Yeah, and it's easier, which is like Richard Ho, and I mentioned this last time, it's Richard Ho from H2O MMA in Montreal. He had said that flat out, that there's 3 people in the cage. One of them's got a mask on.
Mm-hmm.
The coaches are outside. They've all got masks on. Everyone's masked up before they get into the cage. It's way safer than putting 12 guys lined up against one another without any facial coverings and whatnot. So that's, like you said, it's obviously their model's working. And like, didn't Ovid St. Preux test positive a few weeks ago?
Yeah, he tested positive like 2 weeks ago and then just fought.
Yeah. So I'll think, okay, we'll just push that one a couple of weeks. No problem. The 7-fight card though on this past Saturday was only 7 fights.
Yeah, there were 7 because we lost one due to COVID, like at the hours before the fight.
Yeah, but they still have that just painful pacing.
Well, that one they really stretched out because they're like, it's 7 fights. We're gonna make this a long night for you.
Jesus.
I don't know who's got worse pacing though. I mean, UFC could have improved their pacing on that, but Bellator is up there with some bad pacing as well.
Yeah. I don't watch too much Bellator though, unless there's it's got to be a fight that grabs my attention.
Bellator, they have 2 shows this upcoming weekend, a Friday and a Saturday show. Their last.
So where else can I? Because I gassed the cable. I've only got TSN, whatever you want to call TSN Go, and Fight Pass.
Well, so, Bellator is still on DAZN as of at least for this year, which is coming to a close. But they're moving off of Paramount Network to apparently CBS Sports Network. And I don't know what that means for in Canada because that network is not available unless you have certain cable outlets like a Shaw. I know they're available on Shaw and I think Bell.
I used to have it on. We have Cogeco out here, and I used to get CBS Sports Network. And the only reason I got it was because Titan was on it.
Yeah, it used to be on Rogers out where I am, and it's no longer there. I think it's still on Cogeco actually. It's on only select stations in Canada.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I wonder about the streaming it though. If I was smart, I would just go on Reddit and the geniuses there would find something that would work for everybody.
It's going to be an interesting deal because since Spike rebranded as Paramount Network, it hasn't been the biggest success for Bellator, but I think moving to a sports network may help, though that network's so far buried in the channel verse that there is.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole goal is to get a big show to maybe go on Showtime, which is what they're trying to work with, which may help, but Bellator still kind of in this weird spot. They're building up some stars right now, but a lot of ex-UFC guys right there right now.
Yeah, that's basically what it's turned into by the looks of things, and the amount of money and the marketing dollars that they put into Michael Chandler to potentially have him walk away. That's got to be a kick in the gut. But really, who else is he left to fight there?
That's the thing, because he's fought so many of those guys thanks to that tournament structure that they used to do, and then just so he can't fight the pit bulls for the 7 times or caveman Rickles again.
Right, and I mean those were great fun fights and stuff like that. But how many times are you going to tune in for that? You as Joe viewer, how many times do you need to see that fight? Though
it will be literally Bellator will lose their heart and soul if Chandler goes to the UFC because he's really he's the highest level caliber guy they really have. And unless they're willing to expand that lightweight division, which they could be, they have deep pockets with them, but I don't know who else is available out there.
And he was 1,000% homegrown, right? He came off the wrestling mats and into Bellator and just started going nuts.
And had arguably the greatest fight in the promotion's history, the first Eddie Alvarez fight.
1,000%.
Literally put Bellator on the map. Back when Bellator was on the Score here in Canada, weird hours, but you'd have to still catch it because you knew their tournaments then were really fun, but that format kind of went stagnant for them, and now they're
making sustain.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to who used to be there, Sean Wheelock, and he was like, I liked it, but then sometimes you get an injury. It's 5 months later, we're having this tournament final with this tournament. It was so convoluted. It was that picture from Always Sunny with all the cables and stuff like that, trying to map something out. It was kind of like that, but I think they're at the better format with just making fights, but it's getting guys and trying to build those guys up. This Saturday, it's Juan Archuleta and Patchy Mix for their bantamweight title. There's an interesting fight.
That's a good fight.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the 205 division is pretty interesting over there too. Mind you, it's a bunch of, for lack of a better term, UFC rejects. Bader, Phil Davis, what's his name? Machida's over there. He's fighting this weekend too, I think, right?
Yeah, Phil Davis. That's who his opponent is.
Oh, how about that? That's how much attention I paid at Bellator.
Friday night. Friday night. That is the main event. Phil Davis versus Lyoto the Dragon Machida. But
And they're doing all their shows at the Mohegan Sun
in
in
Connecticut,
Rhode
yeah.
Island or Connecticut or something. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's actually been solid for them. The fight
Mhm.
sphere is what they're calling it. It's worked out, I think, really great. They haven't had any real issues. I mean, if you're gonna get a rent free, that building loves Bellator, so may as well use it.
Well, they got a deal with them already, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's all there, and it's set up perfectly. If it's not open 100%, right? They can get all the rooms. The fighters can all stay in all the rooms that are on site, and they can makeshift different conference rooms and meeting rooms into workout areas and stuff like that. So it's a good setup. But especially if the casino can't do anything else, they might as well get some promotion out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And this, I don't know what they have announced after September, but I mean, I think Bellator will be hitting the drawing board more so on the business side. Where are they gonna, how are they gonna market airing so you can watch them on CBS Sports Network? I've been trying to figure out how I can legally stream them. It's not so easy. There's a lot of things that money needs to be given to and may not even work in Canada because of geo blocking. I still don't get that. It's the internet. You should be able to geo block yourself when your CBS Sports Network for
Right.
like weird college football games on there and such, but what have you. But that's Bellator, and that was the Contender Series this week, Rob. A fun night of fights, and week 7 coming up. I mean, we're coming to a close of getting to the midway point of September already.
So we got two more weeks of Contender Series before the break.
I believe so. I mean, according to Tapology, it will end October 6th, which, I mean, it could potentially end then, and then maybe a new influx. But as I said, what Nolan King reported, it's going to be a stop for October and then come back in November.
Well, that would make sense because Dana, Sean, and Mick, they're not going to come flying back and forth. Once they get to Abu Dhabi, they stay there.
Right.
And I talked to Vlad Kazbekov today for quite a while, and he flies out, I think, the 26th of September, and he's there until the 25th of October.
Right, because he's doing a lot of the translating there, from the Russian guys, because that's where a lot of the Russian fights are happening, and only where they can make those international fights too. So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, well, let us go. It was a fun night of fights again. Some very quick nights. We got an earlier exit plan, and Rob, you can hit the hay a little bit earlier as well, thanks to some quick night of fights.
I like it.
Exactly, perfect for you, Rob. But Rob, thanks again for coming on. And it was fun. I'll talk to you next Tuesday for another edition of Dana White's Contender Series.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.